Special Counsel Jack Smith's plan has backfired as he may have handed Trump a very unexpected win. So Jack Smith has repeatedly tried to hasten the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case on the former president, a plan that the Judge Aileen Cannon, has pushed back on as she sees it as an unrealistic goal. Now, many experts believe that Jack Smith's urgency is due to the 2024 presidential elections. Now, the main goal is to keep the former president from running a proper campaign this year. I think the Dems' plan is becoming very, very obvious at this point. Either that or they want to land Donald Trump in jail. However, the latest decision from Judge Cannon may put Jack Smith's entire plan at risk. So the situation is that prosecutors, they now have two choices: allow jurors to see documents that are considered national secrets, or let the former president go. Many critics of Cannon are saying that she's being very biased towards Trump, while others are saying that she's just going by the Constitution and the rule of law. So this puts Jack Smith between a rock and a hard place because he can't rush this case according to his pace. It now forces Jack Smith's hand to decide if he will allow jurors at the upcoming criminal trial to be able to view the classified records that were found at the former president's Mar-a-Lago residence, or they could give jurors instructions that would have them acquit him. The idea is that if Jack Smith doesn't allow them to view these files, then they can't possibly decide on Trump's guilt because they won't even know what he's guilty of doing. It would kind of look like Trump is guilty just because Smith said so instead of actual evidence backing up the claim. Now, before I really get into this, guys, all I ask is that you guys take 1 second, drop a quick like for the video. I totally appreciate you guys. And if you want to help get the truth out here, all I ask is that you guys take 1 second and share this video on Facebook and Twitter. We need more eyeballs on this thing here. Now, what has really surprised many is that the judge is giving the jury a right to their own opinion, something that Smith is deciding on at the moment. Critics argue that a jury shouldn't be allowed to see sensitive information, especially national secrets. Others say that it would be rather difficult to proceed if the jury has to decide on Trump's fate by hearsay alone. However, Smith does have a third option. He could appeal to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. Now, if you guys remember, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals has pushed back on Cannon before, and it is expected that the same thing may happen again. However, this opens up yet another problem for Jack Smith. It is for sure to delay the trial even further, which brings up another very important factor in this case. Just how focused is Jack Smith on getting justice? Is he willing to go through the Court of Appeals and risk a delay? Or is he just going to try and rush the thing because of the 2024 presidential elections? Now, some analysts say that this crossroad, it will show exactly what he wants from the case. Critics of Judge Cannon argue that she's been helping Trump delay this case for as long as possible. However, many say that it wasn't her decision to have multiple charges filed against the former president in different states. This has also contributed to how slow most of his cases are going. Now, they've brought 39 felony counts against Trump, even though we're seeing that number because it's pertaining to specific documents. Now, some analysts believe that this is much more enticing for critics of the former president, and it shows him in a very bad light. So here's where things get really, really interesting. We're being told that the jury has to see these documents that are considered national secrets, right? Well, it turns that some information leaked because of a write-up showing that the files include proposed war plans against Iran and possibly some nuclear information. And I'm not really sure why they let this out to the public, but there is something that we need to address here. If these examples are actually a part of the documents that Trump had, why haven't we heard anything about the ones that President Biden had? In fact, this is something that the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability Chairman James Comer commented on recently. So Comer alleges that the White House and the president's attorney, they have obstructed their investigation. He adds that it is possible that the White House lied about the president's mishandling of classified documents, something that he says isn't fair to the American people. He argues that the people need to know the truth as well, because besides figuring out that the president may have dementia, we know nothing about the dangers of him keeping these classified documents.
In August 2022, President Biden questioned in a 60 Minutes interview how anyone can be that irresponsible when asked about classified documents in the possession of former President Trump. But when President Biden said this, he knew that he had stashed classified materials in several unsecured locations for years, dating back to his time as vice president and even as a U.S. senator. President Biden, the White House, and his personal attorneys have not been honest with the American people about his willful retention of classified material and continue to hide information from Congress. President Biden's attorneys claim to have first discovered classified material at Penn Biden Center on November 2nd, 2022. However, President Biden and his lawyers kept it secret from the American people before the midterm elections. CBS News broke the story in January 2023, leaving Americans to wonder if the White House had any intention of ever disclosing that President Biden hoarded classified documents for years. One of my first actions after becoming chairman of the House Oversight Committee was to launch an investigation into President Biden's mishandling of classified documents. This investigation started before Special Counsel Hur was named, and what we found is alarming. Information obtained through multiple transcribed interviews conducted by the Oversight Committee contradict the White House's and President Biden's personal attorney's narrative about the discovery of classified documents at the Penn Biden Center. In fact, the real timeline began in the spring of 2021, not November 2022, as the White House claimed. Additionally, the classified documents were not kept in a locked closet, as asserted by the White House.
There are also very few people who have addressed the elephant in the room. During this time, President Joe Biden wasn't even the commander-in-chief. He was both a senator and a vice president. New information has also come out that the documents that he had were not as secured as we were told. Now, Trump argues that the documents that he had were personal files. Personal, meaning that he could do whatever he wanted with them. He even added that our country's national security laws are too vague to be used against him. Judge Cannon dismissed this idea and decided to push aside the notion for now. Here's something else that could change the entire course of this case. Trump said that these were personal files, right? Well, Judge Cannon confirmed that a president has sole authority to categorize records as personal or presidential during his presidency, something that the jurors must be made aware of. Either that or they permit a jury to examine every record a former president swipes and claims as personal. This will then give them a better perspective whether the documents are of this nature. Now, like I said, this is putting Jack Smith in a very, very tight spot. So on the one hand, he can allow potential jurors to have access to what prosecutors have described as extremely alarming national secrets. That in and of itself is already a cause for concern for the prosecuting team. Now, on the other hand, as we've already discussed, they could acquit Trump as they would be admitting that he had the authority to assert personal ownership over any government documents that he had. This means that he had the power to classify or declassify documents at his own discretion during his time as president. So this looks to be a lose-lose situation for Jack Smith. Now, again, many critics argue that the justice system is functioning very differently for both Biden and for Trump, even though both of them had classified documents in their possession. The only difference was that Trump was the president and Biden was not. Does Jack Smith take this up and appeal it in a higher court? It's possible. If he does, some legal experts are already predicting what might happen. The possibility is that Judge Aileen Cannon is replaced. That is, if Jack Smith seeks her removal, as they believe that she's already made it incredibly difficult for them to continue their charges against Trump. At least that's what they're saying. This means that there is a possibility that this case is assigned to just a completely different judge altogether, one that may favor everything that Jack Smith says. Now, at this point, we know that Trump's legal team is just trying to push this thing beyond the 2024 elections. Smith has already admitted that if this happens, then the president can just appoint a new attorney general and have all of these charges removed with the snap of a finger. But what do you guys think is going to happen? Now, as far as myself, I'm going to stay up on these cases and keep you guys updated. Before I go, I just want to thank y'all for your time. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you on the next one.